All right, my dears, now we're beginning with the theoretical material. I'm glad to see everyone. Good afternoon. Today we are going to talk about the energy layers in detail again. We'll discuss which illnesses are found in which layers. Before we talk about that, we're going to discuss which combinations of energetic blockages cause which chronic diseases. There are 3 types of chronic diseases because there are 3 types of combinations of different blockages. Or rather, 4 types of combinations of different blockages. When blockages of water and air energy combine, when there's lack of water and air energy, regardless of which layer, this leads to a chronic disease. This disease is characterized by mild inflammation with spasm, a kind of sluggishness. For example, neurodermatitis can give such a result, or some joint diseases without joint deformation, constant pain, or classic migraines. When the head hurts and a person can't do anything about it, this is static and dynamic tension. This is the classic cause, lack of both water and air energy simultaneously. A person has pain, some swelling, some inflammation, but it doesn't lead to any serious consequences. There's no deformation, for instance, no ulcers develop. Let's take, for example, some mild types of pain where something aches, hurts, stings. These are precisely the diseases that progress slowly. They don't give severe complications, but don't go away either. This characterizes combined blockages related to water and air energy, and these types of chronic diseases are the fastest to heal. A person can get rid of these unpleasant sensations faster than other diseases. The next type of chronic disease is when there's a combination of blockage related to water and sun energy. Water and sun energy blockages are more dangerous. They cause the strongest types of inflammatory processes such as stomach ulcers and diabetes. Combinations of blockages related to water and sun energy cause very severe inflammations, ulcers on the body, eczema that does not pass for years. If joints are affected by this pattern, there can be very severe swelling and inflammatory processes. The joints may not be deformed, but they constantly ache and hurt. The spine constantly hurts, aches, becomes red, with severe inflammatory diseases. Myositis that doesn't go away, neuritis that persists and nothing helps to cure them and they constantly aches and aches. Acute appendicitis, all acute intestinal diseases, peritonitis, acute hepatitis, acute pancreatic diseases with necrosis. All these occur because of combinations of blockages related to water and sun energy. These 2 blockages are much harder to treat. They require long-term treatment. First, you should work with water, sit in water, then do static exercises, and after that, work on dynamics. You can't work with the energy of the sun without air. It will cause complications and overload. Then you should work with the energy of the sun. Working with sun energy takes a very long time on its own. Water-related blockages accumulate the fastest and are removed the fastest. You need to do static exercises 4 times a week to remove them. Air-related blockages accumulate more slowly and accordingly take longer to remove. Sun-related blockages accumulate even slower and take even longer to remove. If you have a sun-related blockage, you should start fasting, and only after maybe 6 months you might be able to start treating your chronic illness. The disease will only start healing after 6 months of asceticism practice. You need to practice asceticism for 6 months before healing can even begin. Before that, it won't even start to heal. The most dangerous blockages are combinations of air and sun energy. It's the slowest to accumulate, the slowest to treat, and gives the most complex diseases. The combination of air and sun energy blockages causes pathologies related to excess weight. If a person constantly experiences obesity, gaining weight from eating just a little, it's 100% either a 3rd or 4th energy layer blockage related to air and sun energy. If such an air and sun energy blockage is on the 2nd energy layer, it can cause lipomas on the body. And an air and sun energy blockage on the 5th energy layer causes epilepsy. Imagine what kind of diseases these are. Speaking of mental illnesses, a blockage related to water and air energy causes classical schizophrenia. A blockage on the 5th energy layer related to water and sun energy causes psychopathy and manic depressive psychosis. A blockage related to air and sun energy on the 5th energy layer causes epilepsy, convulsive conditions. Now about childhood mental disability. If a child has air and water blockages on the 5th energy layer at birth, then there will be classical autism or cerebral palsy. When air energy blockage predominates, cerebral palsy develops, and when water energy blockage predominates, autism develops. If you just sit in water and near a tree with a child who has autism, 80% of the disease goes away. But it's not simple to help a child with cerebral palsy because their body is twisted and they need movement. When a child has combined water and sun energy blockages on the 5th energy layer, this is Down syndrome. It means very strong overheating of the psyche. The child lives without tone, doesn't understand anything, has no strength to think, and always feels hot. The combination of air and sun energy blockages causes childhood epilepsy. If an adult has a predisposition to air and sun energy blockages, they are immediately noticeable because they have a tendency to gain excess weight. A tendency to excess weight indicates a risk of malignant tumors. With the combination of air and sun energy blockages, everything is very pragmatic. If you have excess weight, get checked for benign tumors. If you have a benign tumor, expect a malignant one. And it doesn't matter where. There are 3 stages of blockage filling. Everything depends on how filled the blockages in the subtle energy body are. If the blockages are at the first stage of filling, you simply gain excess weight, even if you don't overeat much. If the filling is of medium severity, benign tumors appear out of the blue. If the filling is of high severity, expect malignant tumors. That doesn't mean that if you have, let's say, a myoma, it means you'll get uterine cancer in the same place. No. If there's a myoma, there could be breast cancer or something else. If the 3rd energy layer is affected, expect cancer on the 3rd layer. This is the result of an improper lifestyle, of course, but there are people who have a predisposition to oncology. Mainly these are overweight people, but there are exceptions. Sometimes toxins develop in a person's body not from being overweight. They constantly suffer from chronic colds and can't get rid of them. This means they might have a combination of air and sun energy blockage on the 2nd energy layer. On the 2nd layer, there can be lipomas. Polyps, warts, and moles may start growing. This indicates a risk of cancer. If moles start growing, you are at the 2nd stage. This means you might soon have melanoma, possibly 3rd stage. When doctors see moles starting to grow on a person, it's practically a precancerous condition, even if they don't have excess weight. Excess weight starts appearing on the 3rd layer. The 3rd to 4th layer is excess weight. If you have a dynamic blockage on the 2nd layer, lack of air and sun energy, the problem appears as a result of moles, warts, polyps on the skin or on mucous membranes. If there's a lack of air and sun energy on the 5th energy layer, you won't necessarily develop cramps. You might develop, for example, a nervous system tumor or some serious hormonal problems or Parkinsonism, Parkinson's disease. This is also 5th layer damage. A blockage of dynamics and toxins causes Parkinson's disease. In other words, there are karmic chronic diseases that are not so dangerous. There are more dangerous ones, and there are even more dangerous ones. Less dangerous ones are when there's a combination of water and air energy. They're not as severe. A chronic disease doesn't give severe consequences. More dangerous is the combination of water and sun. This immediately causes strong inflammation. If you have developed a stomach ulcer, it means it's 100% a combination of water and sun on the 2nd energy layer. And this is already a precancerous condition. It's not that cancer occurs only in those who have a combination of air and sun. Cancer can also occur from a combination of water and sun, because cancer is always a lack of the energy of the sun. Cancer can also develop due to stomach ulcers. These stomach ulcers are already precancerous pathologies. It can occur because you have chronic inflammation somewhere, and this transitions into cancer. It can be such a bright, strong inflammatory process. Either you have excess weight or, let's say, chronic colds. All these also indicate a risk of cancer. If you're always having colds, a runny nose, and everything else, it most likely means you have a severe lack of water and sun energy on the 2nd energy layer. There is a risk of cancer in this case too, and a risk of chronic severe infectious diseases. For example, it can be lupus, tuberculosis, rheumatism. This damage of water and sun energy combined together causes such severe, difficult-to-treat diseases. We have studied what kinds of combinations of energetic blockages exist. There is also a 4th type of blockage combination that occurs very rarely, but it's usually not complete. The 4th type of blockage combination results in very, very difficult-to-treat diseases. And even if a person does all the cleansing practices, they need to do them for a very long time so that this combination doesn't really cause them problems with their body. This is when all 3 blockages are roughly under each other. They are like in one line. Well, let's say 2 blockages are fully connected and the 3rd one is shifted 1 division to the side. This is already very difficult to treat. Or it can be even worse when 3 blockages are together. I haven't seen such people yet. Most likely they die in infancy. Such people simply don't survive. When 2 blockages stand together and one is separated by 1 cell, these are most often very difficult to treat diseases. There is a so-called ladder where 3 blockages are positioned 1 cell apart from each other. The ladder pattern also results in such difficult to treat chronic diseases. When there's one blockage, then the next one is one cell away, and the next one is another cell away. A cell is 1/7 of a layer. These are called sublayers. And here in this case too, very difficult to cure diseases occur in a person. It's very difficult to cope with them. And even if a person does all asceticism practices up to the layer where the disease is, still it takes a year to a year and a half before results begin to show. You have to wait for a long time for results because such is the nature of the disease. This means bad fate is acting through this disease, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just need to continue and wait. So we've discussed the combination of energetic blockages in general, and these are exactly what chronic diseases are. All these combinations of blockages, vertical alignment, when one blockage is under another, or when at least two blockages are combined, water, air, or sun. Such combination of blockages creates a predisposition to chronic diseases. And when doctors say, you'll never cure it, it's complete nonsense. They simply don't know how to treat it. And you can definitely cure all chronic diseases if you do asceticism practices according to my method. But you should understand this. The older the age and the more severe the illness, the gentler should be the entry into asceticism practice. This is a very important thing that should be known, and we will definitely talk about this more seriously today. After all, the older a person's age and the more severe their disease, the harder it is to get out of that dead loop. Do you know there's a dead loop in an airplane? The plane is flying and it needs to break free, spin out, and back in. It's a very complex trick. And if you make it too small, the plane might not handle it and just nosedive straight down. The plane loses control in this case. In this dead loop, you need to know very precisely how to make the right angle of inclination to avoid death. And similarly in asceticism practices, when you have a chronic disease, or age, or both together, then in this case it's very important to enter into asceticism practices very gently and slowly. If you make a gentle and slow entry into asceticism practice, and gradually move further and further forward, there won't be any overload. And this is the most important point that needs to be known in treating chronic diseases. First, you need knowledge and be confident in it. If you've listened to this seminar, what results should you get from it? What if you've been told, oh, don't listen to Dr. Torsunov, acupuncture will help you, or homeopathy will help you, or herbs will help you, or let's surgically remove it now and that's it, you'll never have this problem again, or something else will help you. All of this is complete nonsense because chronic diseases are all treated only through cleansing of the blockages in the subtle energy body. That's all. And don't make up anything else. Don't try to invent some other ways, hoping for something. Like in this joke, Doctor, is there anything I can hope for? Depends on what you hope for, the doctor's answer. If you believe in asceticism practices, then you'll succeed, but not immediately. It takes time. But if you are hoping for something else, like some leeches or enemas, this is Ayurveda, I'm doing panchakarma there, you won't succeed. Because panchakarma is not asceticism practice. It's not even cleansing of the subtle energy body. It's just cleansing of the physical body, that's all. You're just freeing the physical body from toxins and that's it. That's what panchakarma is. And to cure chronic diseases, there is only one option. It's a healthy lifestyle. It's adjusting your daily routine, adjusting your diet, and doing all these types of asceticism practices that we are listing. Otherwise, you won't see success. And if you want to see it, it will appear on the horizon only after about 8 months, not earlier. Be patient, otherwise nothing will work. But now, before talking about these asceticism practices in detail, we will first talk about these energy layers, what they actually tell us about. The very first energy layer, as we discussed, is connected with a person's adaptation to this world. And when blockages on the first layer are aligned one under another, then a person has one serious problem in life. They're unable to adapt. It's very difficult for them to make themselves do anything. It's very difficult for them to get used to any location. It's hard for them to adapt to climate changes. It's hard for them to adapt to pressure changes. It's hard for them to adapt to another country, to other people. Everything that changes causes them problems. And it's not that all problems occur at once, but everyone experiences it differently. Some find it hard to make themselves do anything, and they suffer from this because the blockages are developed on the first energy layer. Some find it hard to deal with weather, or simply find it difficult to tolerate the city they live in. Often a person just suffers, not knowing why, but when they move to another place to live, they suddenly feel better. This means they have blockages on the first energy layer that affect exactly this. They have difficulty tolerating the city where they live. That's their problem. Sometimes a person has difficulty tolerating, let's say, weather changes. They constantly have some kind of reaction to the weather. This also pertains to the first energy layer. And all these issues related to the first energy layer lead to such problems. People often complain that they can't start asceticism practices. They feel like they're lacking something, some inner strength or capability. These are problems of the first energy layer. There are also challenges specific to the female body. Women's bodies by nature are very relaxed and quite lazy. It's very hard to motivate them. However, unlike those who have blockages in the first energy layer, women can easily get involved if they do things together. If they support each other in these activities, it's generally not a big deal for them. But for those who have blockages in the first energy layer, even working together feels difficult. Their only hope is to gradually develop positive habits and cleanse these blockages in the first energy layer. Once the blockages in the first energy layer are more or less cleared, they can start hoping for better results. As the saying goes, there must be something to hope for. Can you hope for anything? Only if there's something to hope for. It's crucial for anyone looking to overcome chronic illnesses to know one fundamental law. Just as anyone wanting to repair electronics must understand Ohm's law, this law is non-negotiable. If you don't know Ohm's law, you can't do it. Similarly here, this law is very simple. It's called stability. If you don't perform asceticism practices regularly on a strict schedule, it becomes dangerous to your health. Why? Let me explain. At first, your body will observe you. It will watch, deliberate, and wonder, should I start healing or not? It's hesitant because it fears you might let it down. What does let it down mean? It means you start doing ascetic practices and the body begins healing an organ through exacerbation. Healing always happens through an exacerbation. This is because everything has to be restructured. For example, if you decide to renovate your apartment, you first have to strip off the old wallpaper. At first, there's a mess. But eventually, after completing the renovation, there's cleanliness and order. Even if the renovation is slightly incomplete, there's still no cleanliness or order. There will still be chaos. And you need to get used to this. People who are constantly renovating their homes get used to the idea that there will be chaos. This is very important to understand. If, God forbid, someone stops doing asceticism practices during a period of exacerbation, healing chronic illnesses only happens through periods of exacerbation. And this exacerbation means there's an aching pain. Sharp pain is dangerous pain, but aching pain means healing is happening. If someone experiences this kind of constant aching pain but stops their asceticism practices during this time, then as they say, it's game over. In such cases, the illness worsens. You stop the treatment during an exacerbation out of fear. You think, oh, this Dr. Torsunov's method doesn't suit me. Everything aches. It's too hard for me. Even Dr. Torsunov himself, doubted his own method. Here's what happened to me. I had damaged my back over 20 years, and by that time, it was clear that I had some serious issues with my spine. But I hadn't undergone any medical examinations. I started practicing all the asceticism techniques. After about 3 years, my body thought it over and decided to start healing my back. Slowly, I began to experience more and more aching pain in my lower back. This aching pain began spreading across my entire lower back. For 3 years, I had this aching pain. Imagine, 3 years of aching pain in my lower back. I even started to think, maybe everything in my back has worn out. Maybe these methods don't work. Maybe it's all nonsense that I made up. Then I noticed that in the middle of my lower back, one vertebra had stopped hurting. The pain was above and below it, but in the middle, there was nothing. I kept observing this and noticed that there was no pain there. And I realized that it had healed completely. Then the pain began to spread upwards and downwards in a fan-like pattern and eventually moved to my pelvic bones. There, the pain began, but by then I wasn't worried anymore. Imagine pelvic bones aching. Who's ever heard of that? The pelvic bones and hip joints ached. Then the pain moved up the spine. But it seemed like there wasn't much damage there. The pain just dissolved on its own. And now I'm running like a horse, doing everything, and my lower back doesn't even react. After long flights, there's a slight stiffness in my spine, but no pain at all. This is the result of 3 years of work. My entire lower spine has rejuvenated. It's completely healed. My hip joints and knees also rejuvenated. They all ached for about 6 months each. The ankles too. Everything ached. Now nothing aches or hurts. Everything is great. I'm running like a horse. Everything is perfect. This is advice for you, young people. Don't give up. If you feel that an organ becomes weaker or starts hurting during asceticism practices, it means it has begun to heal. Let's list them. There's this pesky bug here. It keeps crawling on me. I think I'll go and let it out outside. How long can this aching last? Usually it lasts about 6 months. One organ can ache for 6, 7, or 8 months while healing. First, the blockages are cleared and then the organ begins to ache, but it can start aching simultaneously as well. If the body is already in a crisis, if the chronic condition is very advanced and the body can't wait any longer, it begins earlier. Even if you haven't fully removed the blockages, the body will start healing the organ because it can't wait. It takes advantage of the situation, making it even harder. Not only do you have to cleanse the blockages, which is already difficult with running, walking, and fasting, but something will ache as well. And you just have to endure it. The most important thing is to ensure there's no sharp pain. I'll explain this later. Let's continue with the energy layers. The first energy layer isn't associated with diseases. It's about your ability to push yourself and adapt to the environment. The next energy layer has exceptions. If there are blockages at the start of the second energy layer or the end of the first, they may connect to the second energy layer. For example, mucous membrane issues may sometimes be related to the first energy layer as an exception. If blockages extend into the second energy layer, they can transfer the illness there. This is also possible. The second energy layer is associated with emotions. Let's put it this way. The first energy layer is about a person's willpower and their ability to engage. The second energy layer is about a person's emotions. What are emotions? They are reactions to everything. Emotions mean reactions. And accordingly, a person's skin and mucous membranes, all of this belongs to the second energy layer. The lymphatic system, vessels, lymph nodes, all are part of the second psychic energy layer. The immune system is also the second energy layer. Inflammatory processes and colds, these are all second energy layer issues. Bronchitis belongs to the second energy layer. Asthma is in the second energy layer. Gastritis is part of the second energy layer. Stomach ulcers belong to the second energy layer. Constipation is in the second energy layer. Hemorrhoids can sometimes be a second energy layer issue or a third, depending on the cause. If it's just an inflammatory process, it's the second energy layer. If it involves the veins, then it's the third energy layer. Classic hemorrhoids fall into the third energy layer, as they are a vascular condition. Diseases of the mucous membranes in the vaginal or genital areas belong to the second energy layer. Reproductive dysfunctions, frigidity or impotence are also often related to the second energy layer. Diseases of the immune system, such as lymphadenitis, where legs swell due to the lymphatic system, these belong to the second energy layer. Intestinal gas, severe diarrhea, and indigestion, these are also second energy layer issues. When food isn't digested, it's related to the second energy layer. Skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis, neurodermatitis, moles, polyps, and warts all fall under the second energy layer. These conditions are all tied to emotions. Diseases are connected to emotions. As we go deeper into the psychic body, more significant organs are involved in the healing process. But before we dive deeper, I want to note that for young children, infants up to 5 years old, most of their illnesses are related to the second energy layer. As people age, their blockages sink deeper. In young children, blockages only form in the second energy layer. That's why children suffer from allergies, colds, constipation, gas, and indigestion. These are their typical illnesses. Their joints, spine, and internal organs generally don't suffer. Their illnesses are more superficial. Children also tend to be affected by the fifth energy layer. If the fifth energy layer is impacted, it indicates that the person experienced significant suffering at the moment of death. This is why people say, "May you have a peaceful death." A peaceful death ensures that you will be born healthy as a child. It's crucial that a person doesn't suffer at the moment of death. However, suffering can occur not only during dying, but also afterward. If a person passes away but is still tormented afterward due to unresolved attachments, betrayals, or violent, sudden, or unexpected death, it creates challenges. This happens if they were unprepared for that moment. In any case, if the moment of death was highly unpleasant or traumatic, blockages may form in the fifth psychic energy layer, leading to childhood illnesses such as cerebral palsy or autism. For children, the second and fifth energy layers are primarily affected by their age. Diseases in middle age are mainly associated with the third and fourth energy layers. Diseases of old age are primarily linked to the fourth and fifth energy layers. This is the general pattern. And now we move on to the third energy layer. The third energy layer deals with more significant and deeper mental functions, specifically thinking. When a person thinks, they work. What do most of us work with? We work with our minds, primarily thinking. In the past, most labor was physical. In the past, most people worked with shovels or sickles. Even the emblem of Russia features a sickle and a hammer, symbolizing people working with sickles in the fields and hammers in factories. Now, most people work on computers. Today, thinking has become the dominant activity, and diseases related to the third energy layer have become a societal plague. The third energy layer encompasses all blood vessels in the body except microcapillaries. Microcapillaries are tied to the second energy layer, but regular capillaries, small blood vessels, are connected to the third energy layer. Even the largest vessels, such as the aorta, belong to the third energy layer. The muscular system is part of the third energy layer. All muscles, including the uterus and heart muscles, are part of this energy layer. Additionally, ligaments, tendons, and some joints are part of the third energy layer. For example, all joints below the knee, foot joints and knee joints, and below the shoulder and elbow are part of the third energy layer. Joints above the limbs, such as spinal, cranial, hip, and shoulder joints, are part of the fourth energy layer. The third energy layer involves the musculoskeletal system, excluding bones, which belong to the fourth energy layer. All blood vessels are part of the third energy layer. Diseases such as vascular atherosclerosis also relate to this energy layer. Conditions affecting the uterus, such as uterine diseases, belong to the third energy layer. Heart diseases like myocardial infarctions are part of the third energy layer, as are myositis and joint diseases below the knee and elbow, such as arthritis and arthrosis. Hypertension, hypotension, and migraines are also third energy layer conditions. Vision issues like myopia and hyperopia linked to eye muscles fall under the third energy layer. Urethral diseases such as urethritis in men are part of the third energy layer. Diseases affecting the third energy layer typically occur between the ages of 20 and 40, though they may start as early as 15 and continue until 45. This energy layer tends to be most affected in individuals who are no longer children but not yet elderly. Subcutaneous fat is also part of the third energy layer. If a person's fat is mostly beneath the skin, it signifies third energy layer involvement. If the fat is deeper, it belongs to the fourth energy layer, while surface level fat, lipomas, belong to the second energy layer. Fat primarily involves the second and third energy layers. If a person is overweight, it indicates an imbalance in the air energy and the sun energy. The combined disruption of these energies leads to a predisposition for excess weight. The fourth energy layer governs deeper psychological functions, particularly a person's mood or mental state. For example, someone may focus on work, relaxation, or maintaining a positive outlook for leisure. Moods can range from positive to negative or be neutral, such as a working mood, which is neither good nor bad but focused on productivity. Mood reflects deeper aspects of the psyche. Depression, for instance, is linked to mood, a state where there is no good or bad mood, just an absence of mood altogether. When mood-related issues arise, it indicates an imbalance in the fourth energy layer. The fourth energy layer is vast, encompassing nearly all physical and mental structures. It includes the brain's tissues, not the nervous system itself, but its membranes, which make up most of the brain's structure. It all belongs to the fourth energy layer. The entire spine, cranial bones, and skeletal system are part of the fourth energy layer. Major joints such as the hip, shoulder, and cranial joints also belong to this energy layer. Solid internal organs like the liver, kidneys, spleen, pancreas, lungs, thyroid, and thymus gland are also part of the fourth energy layer, but the stomach is the second energy layer. For women, the reproductive appendages are part of the fourth energy layer. For men, the testes are included in this energy layer. However, the hormonal regulation linked to these organs belongs to the fifth energy layer. Hormones themselves represent the fifth energy layer, while the organs that produce them belong to the fourth energy layer. What other elements of the fourth energy layer are? Those include the eye's lens and the small bones of the inner ear. The tiny structures like cones and rods in the inner ear are part of the fourth energy layer. Diseases related to the fourth energy layer typically manifest after the age of 40. Gradually, blockages develop deeper over time. From age 40 onward, fourth energy layer diseases begin to surface. Aches and pains are everywhere. Also fat. An example of fourth energy layer fat is mesenteric fat. Someone may appear slim to the touch but has a distended belly or is generally bulky. This is due to fat in the mesentery. There is a lot of fat inside the body where the intestines are suspended. The connective tissue that holds the intestines is called the mesentery. The intestines hang from it, attached to the mesentery. Just like clothes hang on a clothesline, the intestines hang from the mesentery. There is fat tissue in the mesentery that cushions the intestine from impact. If a person falls, the fat tissue protects the intestine, keeping it intact. This is how the body is designed. However, if too much fat tissue accumulates in the mesentery, it leaves no space for the intestine, compressing it. This can lead to intestinal obstruction or constipation. This is associated with the fourth psychic energy layer. The intestine is associated with the second energy layer, while the mesentery belongs to the fourth energy layer. The fifth energy layer is connected to the deep experiences of a person's life. The feeling of happiness, I feel good, I am happy, is part of the fifth energy layer. Unhappiness and disappointment in everything also stem from the fifth energy layer. Profound calmness is part of the fifth energy layer, as is the feeling, I can do it, I will succeed. We identified three energies within the fifth energy layer: calmness, steady as a tank, forgiving everyone, and feeling at peace. Resentment also resides in the fifth energy layer. When you hold grudges, it affects this energy layer. When you have forgiven everyone and your heart is at peace, it means the water energy in the fifth energy layer is functioning well, without blockages. If you lack willpower, feel obstacles in your path, or experience a sense of hitting a wall in life, a feeling of hopelessness, it indicates a disruption in the air energy of the fifth energy layer. Similarly, when you feel negative emotions, not just emotions, but a profound disappointment in life. Hopelessness is when nothing works out for you, while disappointment is when you no longer want to live. Everything seems terrible. You feel unloved, there is no happiness, and you are a loner. A psychological loner. In such cases, a blockage related to the sun energy occurs. Mental illnesses, nervous system disorders, multiple sclerosis, and Parkinson's disease are also linked to the fifth energy layer. At the beginning of the fifth energy layer, we find nervous system disorders. In the middle, mental illnesses. And at the end, diseases of hormonal organs. Infertility, hormonal disorders originating in the brain, pituitary gland tumors, and central disruptions in hormonal function all fall under the final section of the fifth energy layer. The middle of the fifth energy layer corresponds to mental illnesses, while the beginning is associated with nervous system disorders. The fifth energy layer is the most critical, followed by the fourth, then the third. The second is fourth in importance, and the first energy layer is the least critical, as it doesn't pose life-threatening risks. However, exceptions exist. For instance, I recently encountered a woman at a lecture who wore a veil covering her face. She could see me, but I couldn't see her, because exposing her face caused her skin to suffer due to extreme sensitivity to sun energy. Her weak connection to the sun, combined with severe blockages and an extreme deficiency of sun energy, is a condition known as a decompensated state. Decompensation is becoming increasingly common. For example, some individuals cannot tolerate water. They experience chills, cramps, and even blanching of their fingers and toes, even in 30-degree water. A famous figure skater had such severe water decompensation that after entering icy water, he suffered spasms so extreme that his limbs had to be amputated. Similarly, some people are highly sensitive to wind. The slightest breeze can cause cracking skin. Others cannot tolerate water or sunlight. Exposure to either causes severe reactions like blanching skin or peeling. This sensitivity, a result of decompensation. Chronic energy deficiency leads to an inability to process essential energies, and it's sad. All chronic illnesses are linked to this. Decompensation can occur at varying degrees. If someone wants to understand whether they have chronic illnesses, here's an indicator. If they cannot immerse themselves in water, they definitely have one. If they can't stay outdoors in fresh air because a breeze makes them sick, they certainly do. If they can't tolerate being in open sunlight and always need a hat, it's another sign of chronic illness. This means they have a severe energy deficiency. One of the signs of severe energy deficiency, particularly in the deeper energy layers, is the development of harmful habits. Severe water energy deficiency leads to alcoholism. In women, it often manifests as an intense craving for sweets in the evening, an uncontrollable need to consume sweets specifically. Not just food in general. That signifies a severe water energy deficiency. When someone has a severe lack of water energy, they start experiencing sleep issues. Often they are unaware of this and say, I just prefer going to bed at midnight. If they refuse to go to bed earlier, say at 10 p.m., it's a sign of water energy deficiency. Later, they may find that even when they go to bed, they can't fall asleep easily. This is a general symptom of water energy deficiency. A lack of air energy often leads to smoking, which is more common in men. Smoking is always linked to an air energy deficiency. Women, on the other hand, often rely on strong coffee and tea, which also points to an air energy deficiency. All people, when lacking air energy, lose concentration, productivity, and their willpower diminishes. A lack of air energy affects willpower, concentration, or productivity, sometimes one of these and sometimes all at once. A deficiency in sun energy leads to drug addiction. Last time I was in New York, there was a sour smell all over the city. Back home, the streets smell of tobacco smoke, but there, it's a different smoke, sour. I asked, what kind of cigarettes are these? Why does the smoke smell sour? They told me, 6 months ago, marijuana use was legalized here in New York, and in the US, it varies by state. People here smoke marijuana. It's a drug, cannabis. It has a sour, unpleasant smell. People suffer from chronic sun energy deficiency. Everyone walks around depressed with a suppressed psyche, and they resort to smoking marijuana. Another outcome of sun energy deficiency is chasing after women. When someone lacks happiness, they seek sex. Often people confuse love with sex. A man feels his wife isn't enough and starts looking elsewhere. This happens frequently with men, but it can also occur in women. A lack of the sun energy causes people to lose control and be carried away by impulses. This is often seen when someone approaches the age of 40 or 50. It means sun energy deficiency has accumulated, and alongside it, hormonal imbalances occur and blows one's cover. One might feel an urgent need to find an additional partner or even escape from their spouse. This is purely a lack of sun energy, a problem of energy, not psychology or mental health as people would think. Of course, if a person has enough conscience, they will endure and survive somehow. But this condition can be treated with fasting, sauna, and exposure to the sun. Simply being in the sunlight helps. Even those living in hot climates where it feels stuffy and suffocating might deplete their sun energy due to the heat. Imagine the revelation I recently had. Why do people lack sun energy even when they live under the sun? It turns out it's because of the stifling heat. If you're not directly in the sunlight, but instead in a hot, suffocating environment, you drain your sun energy. For those living in sunny, hot climates, it's essential to walk in the early morning sunlight daily. This replenishes their sun energy, helping them endure the day's heat and stuffiness. Many people don't realize this. They think walking in the morning sunlight will make things worse, but it's actually the opposite. By recharging with sun energy, you can handle the oppressive heat. When people don't fast, avoid saunas, or skip morning sunlight, it blows their cover. This could lead to substance abuse, gambling addictions, or similar behaviors. Casinos, forex clubs, betting, this excitement and desire to enjoy large sums of money all stem from a deficiency in sun energy. If we talk about bad habits, a lack of air energy can lead to gambling addiction. It can also manifest as a craving to watch action-packed films, movies where there's constant shooting and running. This too is a symptom of air energy deficiency, as is gambling addiction. Children often exhibit this when they quickly move their eyes back and forth. They play computer games nonstop. This is also a sign of air energy deficiency. It turns out that, aside from chronic physical illnesses, there are also chronic illnesses of the intelligence. Intelligence illnesses also arise due to a lack of energy. However, these issues reside in deeper psychic layers and are connected to the nadis. Yesterday in the lecture, we discussed how psychic energy, which exists in the subtle body, flows through the nadis. When the nadis become heavily blocked at deeper levels, harmful habits emerge. These are illnesses of intelligence. Intelligence does not function properly. A person cannot quit their harmful habits. They cannot force themselves to live normally because they lack energy. This begins to affect a person's social life. Their social functions start to deteriorate. We have now described all types of chronic illnesses that exist. They are all connected exclusively to blockages within the body. Some blockages are in the nadis, which are linked to the subtle body, and they develop there. These blockages in the nadis also predispose blockages in the shrotas. If there is a blockage in the nadis, there will also be one in the shrotas. Shrotas are the channels connecting the subtle body to the physical body. They lead to chronic illnesses in the physical body. When blockages develop in the nadis, it leads to disruptions in a person's social behavior. It manifests as sensitivity or emotional vulnerability. Chronic lack of water energy results in touchiness, anger, irritability, heightened sensitivity, vulnerability, withdrawal from people, and introversion. All of this is related to water energy. When there is a lack of air energy on the mental level, it leads to a lack of willpower. The person cannot work. They have no focus, no memory, and their thinking is disrupted. The ability to connect with others deteriorates, leading to coldness in relationships. This is all due to a lack of air energy. Coldness in relationships. A lack of love. This is caused by a lack of air energy. Distance between people and inability to get close. This is due to a lack of air energy. When there is a lack of sun energy, the person loses faith in themselves. They may feel unattractive, fail to love themselves, and struggle to gain the affection of others. They may display irresponsibility, low mood, and persistently negative emotions. This deficiency of sun energy leads to gloominess, making a person appear unhappy and less appealing. These energies also influence social life. It's not just physical ailments that improve. Social well-being also gets better, though this happens later. When someone starts cleansing their energy blockages, the first to clear are the shrotas. These are blockages related to the physical body. The shrotas, energy channels, are the first to cleanse. So what heals first in a person? The psyche or chronic illnesses. Chronic illnesses are the first to heal because they are more critical for the body. Schizophrenics can live for a long time if they don't have chronic illnesses. The body prioritizes healing the physical aspect because we live in physical bodies. The subtle energy body can function without the physical one, which happens after a person's life ends and they remain in their subtle energy body. Therefore, the body first cleanses the shrotas, and only then does it move on to the nadis. The nadis also cleanse in parallel, but not as deeply. The shrotas cleanse if a person performs austerities. On average, it takes 8 to 9 months for the shrotas to cleanse significantly enough for the body to begin healing chronic illnesses. The body heals itself through aching. This aching is worth discussing. Take running, for example. A person is running, and during the run, something starts to ache. This means they need to run slower. It indicates that some organ is signaling to the person, please take it easy on me. I'm healing right now, don't overstrain me. If, for instance, your digestive system is aching, it means you should eat lighter foods. Don't overburden it, it's unwell. Give it a chance to heal and recover. Eat more lightly to help the aching organ recover. It means the body is healing and recovering, don't be afraid. If you experience sharp pain during a run, you need to stop running and walk instead. Stop running, take a moment to breathe, and then continue walking. Don't resume running right away. Sharp pain during a run is a serious warning. If a dull ache turns into sharp pain, it means you've done something wrong. Perhaps you started running at the wrong time, ate something unsuitable, went to bed too late, or are overdoing an austerity practice. Analyze and understand why your body is rebelling, why it's struggling to heal properly. Sharp pain signals a rebellion. It means the body is protesting and warning you not to continue doing whatever caused the issue. This is dangerous. If you run and experience no pain during the run, but later your liver, a joint, or something else starts to ache, that's excellent. It means your body is healing properly. For example, a doctor visits a patient in the hospital room. The doctor asks the nurse, "What's the body temperature of our patient?" Check the thermometer on the wall. That's the temperature of the surrounding air near his body. Ah, so he passed away. Was he sweating when he died? Yes, he was sweating. Good. This is an anecdote, a joke, but in reality, it's not just a joke. If someone runs and afterwards something starts to ache, that's a good sign. It means the organ is healing. And it's healing gently and carefully. For instance, my knees, let me give you an example. My knee aches. After I run, the knee aches for a day or two, and then it goes away. Later, when I start running again, there's no ache during the run, but after the run, the knee begins to ache again. This is good, this is excellent. And if during jogging your knee aches and then it stops aching, this is also good. This means that you're cleansing energetic blockages, and during this process, the knee is aching, and then it stops aching. This is also good. This means you can continue running without fear. But if during running your knee started aching and then aching didn't stop, it means you should run slower, don't torture your leg. It's telling you, I haven't cleared the blockage, couldn't remove it. The same applies to static exercises. You're doing them, something starts aching and aching doesn't stop. This means you need to reduce the load. If a person interrupts a static exercise for 20 seconds, then continues again, the depth of cleansing energetic blockages becomes weaker, but the cleansing continues. A 20-second interruption doesn't stop the cleansing. This is very important to know. So about pain. An aching pain means that some chronic disease is being treated. Because if you have no pain at all while running, jumping, doing various things, but you have no pain, this means that you're also getting treatment, but not for chronic diseases, because chronic diseases are all treated through aching. Because a chronic disease means that your tissue is already damaged and it recovers through aching, that means this function is weakened, and during this time, you need to take care of your body. Let's say your knee is aching, for example. Well, take care of your knees, don't walk too much. Do jogging, but don't walk too much. Fill it with energy. But if it aches strongly, acutely, then you need to walk instead of running, and cleanse through walking. Then when it aches less, you can start running again. Monitor your pains. Where it hurts is where you need to work. If your liver hurts, then reduce fatty foods. If pancreas hurts, don't eat late in the evening at all, because pancreas suffers at night. So, if stomach hurts, immediately say goodbye to spicy, fried, and acidic foods. If intestines hurt, also say goodbye to spicy, acidic, and fried foods. Therefore, you need to ensure that the sick organ heals comfortably and not overload it. Don't force it to suffer. So it's very important to know that positive emotions during treatment produce good results. There's a whole science. If it hurts, it means it's healing. Not always healing, of course, and acute pain is not healing. Spasms are not healing either. But aching pain, that's healing. And with this aching pain, you need to try to inspire yourself, of course. It doesn't really inspire when something is aching, but you need to force yourself. When you enter an apartment under renovation, you should be happy. Soon everything will be renovated, and then the renovation goes well, successfully. But if you're moping all the time, then the renovation will go badly. You'll do something wrong there. Therefore, when your body is being repaired, be happy. Wish happiness to your sick liver, stomach, intestines, and wish happiness to your joints. Now about how to treat chronic diseases. If you're over 40 and you have a chronic disease and you've never cleansed your body and you're afraid to even think about it, always start very carefully. For example, water at 28 degrees is not cold. Even if 28-degree water feels cold to you, really, then start with 30 degrees. That's not cold at all. And at 30 degrees, it takes about 16 minutes to cleanse one energy layer. Well, accordingly, start with one layer. Nobody is rushing you. Enter 30-degree water, stay there for 16 minutes, get out. The next day, stand near the wall or sit in the butterfly pose for 13 minutes. Then the next day, walk for 48 minutes. This is cleansing for one energy layer. And then the next day, do intermittent eating. For example, don't eat in the evening. You can drink instead. Blend lettuce leaves, spinach, or other leaves with water. Drink such leaf juice, and thus you'll have a passive fasting. That means you eat at 2 p.m., then eat next time in the morning. This makes a 16-hour break. This is already cleansing for one layer. So once every 3-4 days, you do such passive fasting. And so each day, do one asceticism practice. If you have chronic diseases and you are an elderly person, start with one layer. Cleanse one layer with water, then do static exercises, then dynamic exercises for one layer, then intermittent eating for one layer. Don't combine all asceticism practices at once, do them in turns. And so 2-3 months pass. You do everything for one layer. Then move on to 2 layers. For example, by this time you can lower the water temperature to 28 degrees. And stay in 28-degree water for 28 minutes because it takes 14 minutes to cleanse one layer and 28 minutes for 2 layers. Well, accordingly, 26 minutes of static exercises is for 2 layers. Then further, 48 multiplied by 2 is 96 minutes of walking. If you can walk 48 minutes every day, then 96 minutes you walk once every 2 or 3 days. And fasting for 2 layers accordingly takes 24 hours on greens. Not on water, but on greens. 24 hours means you need to fast from morning to morning. On greens, you just drink green juices. Don't fast from lunch to lunch, because you overeat at the first lunch, then you'll overeat at the next lunch too. And you end up not fasting, but with a one-time eating. This is a weak kind of fasting. So, have a light breakfast, and then you break the fasting next morning. That's 24 hours of fasting. It's normal. And you shouldn't start fasting in the evening either. That means don't eat in the evening before going to bed. Don't do that. Do fasting from morning to morning. Fasting on greens for 2 layers, then move on to 3 layers after 2-3 months. It's not difficult. Well, for example, walking might be more difficult. Fine, keep walking for 2 layers if it's hard for you, but start doing water and static exercises for 3 layers. And so, gradually the time comes, and a person reaches the cleansing of 5 energy layers with minimal loads. They stay in 28-degree water, do static exercises. There are simplified positions. Sitting in the butterfly pose on a couch, for example, with your back against the couch, legs on something soft, taking 3 20-second breaks during one position. The simplified diamond pose is with a cushion between the legs, like I just did. My chair is soft enough, and I also put a small cushion between my calves and buttocks. It became a simplified diamond pose. I can endure it now. Before, I had to interrupt it. But now I can sit and endure it for 65 minutes. Time will pass, and I'll probably be able to sit in the diamond pose without a cushion. Well, the body gradually gets used to it. At first, I couldn't even do it. Had to get up often. And I learned to do the butterfly pose too. And now I can sit in the butterfly pose without any problems. But the diamond pose is still difficult for me. And so, gradually, as you age, you move further, gradually. The most important thing here is not to rush. Don't think that if you start cleansing 5 energy layers faster now, it will be better. It will be worse. Because if you overstrain your body, your flare-ups will become not mild, but hysterical. You'll start having acute pains in your body. That means the more energy you give when you run, you give more energy when you stay in freezing water, you give more energy. The body doesn't orient itself in this regard. It heals according to how much energy it's given. And if it heals with too much energy, then accordingly a flare-up begins. It can't handle this flare-up and you lose health. That's how it works. Therefore we give in portions. Like, for example, people in besieged St. Petersburg. When they were starving for months, they were gradually brought out of starvation over weeks. They kept them locked up, didn't let them go anywhere, and gave food in small portions. These people asked for more, screamed there, and demanded more food, but they weren't given more. They gradually activated them over a month or two. Then they would release people to freedom, gave them the opportunity to live. Otherwise, they would just overeat and die from intoxication. That's how it happened. Therefore, it's the same with chronic disease. Don't rush to get energy from water, air, and sun. Do everything gradually. The same applies to age. Let's say if you start asceticism practice at 70, you might never reach the 5th energy layer in your life. If you can barely walk, start slowly and do as much as you can. For example, my mother walks to cleanse 1 energy layer and it helps her a lot. She doesn't do anything else, no asceticism practice, because she can't. But at least she walks on the treadmill to cleanse 1 energy layer. This is her contribution to health, so to speak. She started cleansing her body late, when she was already over 70. I started at 50 and reached 5 energy layers. After 2.5 years, I was already running for 5 energy layers. I stayed in water for 5 energy layers. I did static exercises for 5 energy layers. I started fasting a bit later, cleansing 3 energy layers, but I started doing sauna sessions for 5 energy layers back then. I practiced yoga before and led a healthy lifestyle, so overall it wasn't difficult for me to reach the cleansing of 5 energy layers. But sometimes people are already sick at 50. They need to do all this very carefully, very gradually. We will develop an application for Android watches, for Apple watches, which will test your body, age, health condition, and offer you a specific package for body cleansing. There will be 5 packages in total, and the 5th is the slowest, very slow. The first one is the fastest. And if a person can't handle some package, the program will switch them to another one. That means that the program will tell you itself. Do your next asceticism practice this way at this time. Don't overload yourself. Don't lower the water temperature. The program will give advice to the person. Well, in about 6 months, I hope we'll launch it. We've already registered it in the App Store. You can see this program there. We have registered it. But it's still being finalized. It's serious work. I'm already using it. Today I sat in water with my watch and monitored how many energy layers were cleansed. You can already use it for running. I run with the watch, looking at how many energy layers are cleansed during the run. You don't need to worry about your pace, speed, or distance. You just look at the watch and run calmly, or walk, or alternate running and walking. When you change your pace, the cleansing will still be shown on the watch. Therefore, such a program will be available and you can treat all chronic diseases with the help of the watch. Well, for now, while it's not available, we have a methodical health guide and calculation of asceticism practice timing on the website torsunov.ru. In the materials section, you'll find the methodical guide and asceticism practice timing calculation. This needs to be studied, and everything should be done carefully according to the guide. The guide has been updated now. It will be updated in a couple of days. Even if you have the guide, download it again because there will be many useful additions. This will be a new version of the guide. And there will be many useful tips given on how to do everything correctly. But the most important thing today that I wanted to tell you is that all chronic diseases are connected with blockages in the subtle energy body. If you have a chronic disease, you need to cleanse them gradually. Don't immediately go for very low water temperature, very difficult static exercises, very intense dynamic exercises, or very long and strict fasting. Fast on greens, it's a gentle fast, not difficult to endure. In 28-degree water, stay up to 70 minutes. Do static exercises for 65 minutes. Practice prolonged, continuous movement for 4 hours, 21 kilometers. Gradually start fasting for at least 36 hours to cleanse 3 energy layers. But if your disease is connected with a solar energy blockage on the 5th energy layer, then do fasting for up to 60 hours. Nothing can be done about it. For example, if you have hormonal infertility, hormonal organs work abnormally, it means that you definitely have a solar blockage on the 5th energy layer. And you need to do at least a 60-hour fasting on greens. That's 3 nights and 2 days, and then 3 weeks break. And if it's a 60-hour water fasting, then you need to take a month break to let your body recover after such fasting. All right, my dears, that's all. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.